Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we continue with our CMSL writing practice series by discussing some of the most common mistakes we have been doing while answering questions and how to improve your writing for better marks. If you're preparing for CS exams, this video is a must watch. So before starting, let's get a preview of how Institute is targeting this chapter. As per my perspective, this I feel is a favorite chapter of Institute out of the seven chapters from part one, because Institute has asked around 3 to 4 questions in December 2024 attempt. They have also asked a practical question from this chapter. So let's get into it. Here's the first question. Questions you can get from the Telegram channel. Telegram channel link you can find in the description. So the first question is about options in future, and this is basically a practical question. So high scoring, easy to score if you know the concept. You can crack it. With this, I will tell you that in this chapter, you hardly have three practical concept based question. One is on rights and options, which institute asked in the first attempt itself. The second that they can ask is about right issue and entitlements. You can get these questions from previous scanners. There they have these questions, and the third topics from which they can ask you a practical question is CPI and WPI. That also you should check from past scanner. I'm not gonna explain you this practical question because this should be done in a proper series. So I would recommend that you should watch a proper series for these things. So we will just focus on theoretical questions. Here comes the first case based theoretical question. With this, I would like to inform you that Institute has asked two case based questions from these chapter. So the first question here is an information related to a case-based question. If you see here, the information is not a lot. They are just telling you that their management is seeking to list the company on BSC and SME platform. When the question is not lengthy, I would suggest you to directly skip to questions in the pointers, right? The first question is whether the Techno APR can get listed at BSC SME platform. Definitely no information is given. So what we can write here is if it's a company, so it can definitely get SME listed. Okay. Like that, there are four more questions. I'm not getting deeper into it. I'll just highlight one thing, that when you are studying a particular provision, you have to keep this in mind, that institute may ask you sub questions which will be like 1 mark or 2 marks. So you have to ensure that you are just writing relevant information, not writing everything or too much. Okay, that will not give you any extra edge. So only ask what they are asking. Make sure that you see for how much marks they are asking that questions. Like that, the questions I'll just take up one by one. Tangible assets. How much there should be tangible asset? You need to just write the limit, that is 1.5 cr. Then they are asking how what should be the post issue paid up capital. Simple. It should not be more than 25 crore. These questions should not take lots of time in reading. You should learn the art of reading the question in less time and also writing it as quickly as possible, because you have to finish the paper in 3 hours anyhow. So is it compulsory to keep the shares in demat or physical form? If you are seeing, I'm not even reading the entire question, I'm just figuring out what they are saying from the questions. But yes, I am experienced, I have seen a lot of question papers and all. Then that is the reason I can do it so quickly. So for you to have this kind of thing, you have to see a lot of questions along with studying provision. Just studying provision will not help. You have to master this art. Last question is whether the change in promoters about 10 months preceding the date of filing the listing application, does this have any impact? So this is only one question out of five where they are asking you uh, case, basically. So here is the answer. There should not be any change in the promoters of the company in preceding 1 years. Okay. This is the third question, or I can say second question, case based. Now here the technique will change. How? If you see, they are just asking you three sub questions, and the first question itself is these three transactions constitute a bulk deal. So I have to read the case to know what these three transaction was. Earlier question I could just answer with reading the questions, but now I have to know what they are asking. The B question is saying reporting timing when a bulk deal happens. So it is a direct question. I don't need to know anything from the case. Third question, who is required to disclose the details of bulk deal? Again, no need to read the case, but yes, I have to give a reference, so I need to know what are the parties involved. Okay, so when you go through the case, you would know that they are talking about three different transactions. One is a 50% transaction, second is a 5% transaction, and third is a 0.5% transaction here. Okay, so on the basis of this paragraph, we will be framing our first answer that all the three transaction would be allowed because the quantity is bought or sold should be more than 0.5%. Okay, the second question, which is a direct question, we just need to write the provision that the execution of bulk deal should be notified on to the exchange immediately upon the execution of the trade order. Third question, who is required to disclose? We know stock exchange, a stockbroker has to disclose it who facilitate the trade. So who is the stockbroker here? In the third paragraph you will find the stockbroker's name is ABC Limited. So how you can frame the stockbroker ABC Limited who facilitates the trade is required to reveal to the stock exchange, right? This is how you are going to read the case based question or deal with them in your answers. Okay, I hope you have gotten insight. These two questions I think were asked in last attempt only, so make sure that you are preparing well for your exams. Okay, now we will take some direct questions. I think there are four direct questions which the institute has asked, so let's roll it. The first question here is differentiate between WPI and CPI. Let me tell you what mistake happens here. It's a direct question. You are not supposed to make any mistake, right? But the mistake is not using technical terms or keywords in subject like CMSL. Using the right terminology can make a big difference in scoring. So let's take an example, like you have written WPI shows the overall inflation while CPI is used for household inflation. No, you're not supposed to write like this. You have to use the keywords. If you see, I have highlighted that inflationary trend is shown by in WPI of economy. Economy as a whole is a word that you must write. Why I'm pressurizing on these things? Because these are not present in your answers. You might attempt them, but you don't write such things, which is the reason you are not scoring. And when you're talking about CPI, you must mention cost of living because you are talking with the perspective of consumer. Okay, so that word should be there. Income and expenditure streams, we earn, we expend, that is our cost of living, and that is how CPI is measured. Okay, what else we can write? WPI is based on wholesale prices because it talk about primarily economy. Okay, now CPI is based on retail prices because it's talking about a person to person, that is distribution or cost and taxes. Third point you need to write is about prices. Prices are determined in WPI on a voluntary basis. However, on a CPI, it's calculated on a collective basis by investigators by visiting markets. Okay. Now, WPI covers all goods while a CPI covers consumer goods. These uh, keywords should be highlighted in your answers. Even if you are making any mistakes, it will be covered if you highlight the keywords. Like in the last statement which I was reading, intermediate goods. I have supposed to mark this word. Okay, maybe I can draw it, highlight it. Okay. So intermediate goods should be your keyword. Okay. So again, last point is primarily based national accounts and enterprises are uh, based on it. And for CPI, it's consumer expenditure, like what we are spending on. Okay. Now move on to fourth, I think fourth or fifth question it is. So here we are talking about buying a single share is riskier than investing in ETF. Many students ignore the marks allocation and end up writing too much or too little. So always analyze the question for how many marks they are asking questions. So let's suppose this is a 5 mark question. So you have to make sure that you are writing key 4 to 5 points. I'll emphasize on key 4 points next, but not an essay. Okay. Also, don't write general things. Again, I'll mention this thing. What we are looking for, any evaluator is looking for, is the key word. So, let's suppose if we are talking about a rising of Fed rate. So, what is the first thing that comes to mind? That Fed rates is an interest rate at which the top US bank borrow, okay, overnight money from common reserve. Now we have said that what is fund rate, okay. Now we have to explain what is common reserve. So common reserve is the amount or a portion of the deposit of American banks in a federal reserves in cash, which is a statutory requirement. In India also we have such requirements, and but there are different ways to do it. Okay, so this is the first point, first key takeaway. Second, what we can say is the fund rates give the direction in which US interest rate moves. Okay, in India we call it repo rate, according to which our interest rate changes. But if you talk about US, it comes to Fed rate of so this is second point you can mention. On other hand, US interest rate matter a lot to global capital flows, while repo rate does not affect others except India. This is the second point. This is how you have to compare also Indian market with the foreign market while writing your answer. Third key takeaway that we can write or mention here is just remembering the keywords, like how increase in Fed rate affects. Okay, what is Fed rates? Okay, these are the ways of remembering the answer. You don't need to word by word remember it. You just need to remember the key and frame the answer. Some of the world's richest institutions and investors have their base in US. Thus, allocation decisions are based on Fed rate. Third key takeaway, allocation decisions. Fourth takeaway, globalized world has make the markets very much connected, right? So increase in trade risk will have a negative impact on the stock market. So fourth takeaway is stock market. So it will also affect US stock market as well as, now again we have to compare our Indian market. So we will say that the round of sell-offs will also have an impact on Indian market. So what we taken up, what is Fed rate? Second, how increase in Fed rate affect the market. Third, allocation, how allocation decisions is affected by it. How stock market is affected by it. Fourth, how domestic borrowings are affected. So RBI will be hesitant in cutting the rates, and heavy pullout of foreign investors from the Indian bond market will affect the Indian market or Indian economy, right? So this is the impact of Fed rate. We should write the answers like this. Now I'm moving to the next question, which is an ETF based question. Okay. With this question, I would like to highlight one mistake that we all do is students write conclusions without justification. Examiners expect logical reasoning, not just statements. Okay. So whenever you are framing an answer, you have to make sure that your answers are justifying it, right? Not just you are making any gibberish sentences. Like, let's suppose you have written ETF are safer than stocks. Stocks are risky. ETF invest in many companies. But why stocks are risky? Why ETFs are safe? So you have to explain, you have to give your justification, right? So here again I have highlighted some points which from which you can learn what mistakes you are doing. So what is ETF? ETF is basically a security, just like any index commodity bond, but it's basically a basket of assets like index funds, okay, like Nifty, Sensex, all these things. You have to quote examples. It is traded where? It is traded in stock market. These things you can highlight definitely in your answers. You can keep small highlights that will ensure that you know what you are writing. Next point what you can make is that how ETF, since ETF is based on index, so their prices are derived from the performance of the index. Simply, the answer is coming out of the first point itself. Ki, you have a ETF is based on index fund. Definitely, the price will come for the performance of the index fund. If the performance goes good, then the ETF price will also show good. ETF just reflect the performance of the index they track. Okay. Mm, okay. Now, ETF trade like a common stock, and its price changes as per the trading in the market takes place. Okay, how its value is derived? Its value is derived from the NAV of underlying stock. Okay, or whatever the stocks are there in the index, from its NAV we can determine its ETF. Higher daily liquidity and the fees are lower than mutual fund. You can write this in point wise also, like if you don't if you're not able to remember it in a paragraph, just think, okay, it has liquidity, okay, it has lower fees than mutual fund, like simply lower risk due to its diversification. Like this you can simply frame your answers. Okay, and now last question I'm going to take is of currency derivatives and commodity derivatives. Direct question, we are not expected to make mistake, but these are the areas where we make the most mistakes. Okay, one of the biggest mistake is lack of clarity in answer. Many students either write too much unnecessary information, as I already mentioned, or leave out crucial details. You have to mention crucial details. Okay, um if I take an example of an incorrect answer, it could be like currency derivatives are related to money, commodity derivatives are related to goods. Don't you think this is a too vague answer? But when we are writing an exam, we are thinking, okay, we should get marks. Why? When you see someone else, you are saying vague, but when you are writing on your own, it's not vague. That's very lame excuse, right? Examiners want detailed points of differences. So let's improve it by structuring it properly. Okay. So how you're going to write it? First, currency derivatives are a financial contracts. How it comes? It's derived from two currencies at a future date. Where it is traded? Basically, it's traded in foreign exchange markets. Who are the participants in India? Bank, corporations, exporters, importers. Forex rates are called basically value of foreign currencies, right? How it is traded, just like a future or a option. Now you can also, if you feel your answer is not your length is not enough for 5 mark, you can write its advantages, disadvantages, like that. Okay, you can write in paragraph format, you can write in tabular format, but when you are writing in tabular format, make sure you write at least 5 to 7 points, and the difference should be clear. You are actually comparing when you are writing in tabular form. That is the key. Okay, now commodity derivative, it is a physical goods. It can be done in a spot market, future market, forward market. Spot market reflects current price. Simple, like the way I am saying, this is how you have to write the answer. But how I am saying, how I am using the keywords, those should be highlighted in your answer. How commodity derivatives are financial instruments, like they are underlying commodities like oil, gas, and also it's not, it need not be just products which are physically can be touched or something like that. It can also be emission trading credits, it can also be freight trades with, or even the weather can also underlie commodity derivative. Okay, so good source of critical information are market sentiments. We will also talk about risk. How can there be a risk? Supply and demand can change both in domestic and global markets. That can be a risk. Okay, how risk can be taken care of? By hedging in commodity derivative products. Another risk, we can also see, if you don't remember the answer, you don't remember, you can also add from your own um creativity. Okay, like uncertainty and volatility. If there are any maybe any circumstances in a particular country, let's suppose we import oil from Russia. If there's a war in Russia and Ukraine, the prices will affect. Like this, you can also quote examples that will show your knowledge. Also, you just don't need to stick to the words of book, but what you're saying should make a proper justification, should make sense. I hope this helps you a lot in identifying what mistakes you have been doing. So, those were the common mistakes in CMSL writing practice and how to fix them Be clear and concise, use technical terms, follow the marks distribution, justify your answers with reasoning, handle the case based question properly. Going before writing exam, make sure you practice a lot of practical questions because they give you straight 5 mark answer or straight 4 mark answer. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more writing practice tips. See you in the next video. Ta-da, bye. Mm.